Fire in the hole, Mayor.
We would have to give it to so if we
All of them, last bullets.
All right, everyone, I'd like to call the Common Council meeting to order and ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Molly, if you could help me out with the roll call, please.
Alderperson Henry. Here. Alderperson Schaefer.
Here.
Alderperson Valdy.
Here.
Alderperson Dean.
Here.
Alderperson Grimmer.
Here.
Alderperson Price.
Here.
Alderperson Eicher.
Here.
Mayor Atwell.
Present.
Administrator Hafner.
Here.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to number 4, approval of minutes of the August 15, 2022 Common Council meeting.
I move to approve the minutes. Second.
Who had the second, Price?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we're on to number 5, City of Delafield citizens' comments. Anybody, come on up, Mary.
Good evening. My name is Mary Daniel, and I live here in Delafield at 309 Wisconsin Avenue. This evening, I'd like to speak to something on the agenda. Number 11, report of city officials, A, city administrator, Tom, and the 2023 budget schedule. Couple of questions, and maybe Tom is going to cover this, so I apologize if he does. My question is, what are the current statuses of the items that were approved on your 2022 budget? If you look at the treasurer's report on page 58, it's this page, all of the items that are approved for 2022, there are only 4 that are closed. So I'm hoping that someone can give us an update on things like St. John's Bay Public Boat, Cushing Memorial, Fort Cushing staining, that type of thing. So if those capital projects are not completed in 2022, where do the unused dollars appear? I know they stay there, but where do we find them? And then how does that affect the new budget projects that are going to be coming forward for 2023? An example that I was looking at was the example of the St. John's Bay Public Boat Dock, which in the beginning has $60,000 approved, and $618.80 has been spent as of the 7/31/22 report. Information provided in your e-packet has an application for a grant for the part of that public boat dock, which now has a cost of $89,500. Question is, where will the difference of $29,500 come from if the grant, which is $44,000 plus, is not given? Does then the additional $29,500 get added to the 2023 budget? And my third question is the local fiscal recovery funds. American Rescue Plan, COVID plan, money, that type of thing. Delafield was awarded $744,000 plus in 2021. Those funds were to be used to cover costs incurred prior to December 31, 2024. And the list of monies has 5 possibilities. 50% of the total allocation was to be made within 60 days of the enactment, March 11th, 2021. And the remaining 50% of the allocation to be paid at least 12 months after the first payment. Tom, you've requested that when I have questions about budget audits, I direct them to you or to Amy, our treasurer, and not the Common Council. And I've done as you asked and met with Amy back in July, and she was very helpful. But Amy couldn't give me one answer because it, I think, pertains to the 2023 budget. So will the remaining COVID relief money be used for police salaries, as I think it was in the past? And how do you plan for that in the 2023 budget? And if you're going to give me those answers, I apologize for asking them early. And so thank you, everyone. It's budget time. Some people look at it with anticipation and some people don't. And Tom always does a good job, so thank you, Tom.
Thank you for the comments.
Thank you, Mary.
Who would like to be next? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Jackie Leiden, and I live at 1614 West Shore Drive on Lake Nagawicca. I have lived there my whole life. I'm a Delafield native. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about the St. John's Pier that's been proposed. And I was thinking how to put this, and I thought, imagine if citizens started to build whatever they wanted without consulting the city for a permit. Of course, you wouldn't expect to get away with that. You're a citizen of a city, and the city has laws, and also it has rules, and rules that must follow also at the state level. And if the project is controversial, as this one is, and perhaps even if it isn't, you'd need a public hearing. But again, it's your view that you can make facts on the ground and ignore the review process, and that locks out the public. So say your plan is a drone dock or some kind of drone port. Now, that would annoy a lot of people for good reason. The drones would go in and out of a beautiful, ecologically sensitive area, increase noise, increase the amount of invasive species, which is going to harm the lake, increase all kinds of congestion. The police aren't staffed to handle people mishandling drones. And you don't even personally own a drone or intend to purchase a drone or even hang out with people who fly drones. So why should you pay for a drone dock? Well, how about because you're a little person and you can and will be ignored? As a citizen, you can't harm your neighbors. But a city doesn't have to behave like a citizen under this administration. It can do whatever it wants. And when it comes to a pier, which will do reckless things to the environment and add costs and congestion, why would you hold a public hearing if you don't believe in the public? And it's pretty hard to see where the public is served in the St. John's Pier, which has no business being on the agenda tonight at all. Maybe this backdoor effort is just the city's way of yanking our chain. Maybe that's the whole point. The city, not the citizens, now asks for permission to apply for a grant for funding the pier, a pier for which they have no permit. And if that's okay with you, I've got a nice little bay I'd like to dirty up for you. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Who would like to be next?
I have a comment from a constituent that was sent to me that I'd like to read into the public record.
Okay, you gonna come down here?
Absolutely.
Okay, this is from neighbors and constituents of mine in District 3. Dear Jackie, we are longtime residents of Delafield with a combined 158 years in this community. We have experienced countless Delafield changes, some positive, some not. Many negative changes that have occurred expose a disregard for Delafield's natural spaces, its ecosystem, topography, water systems, and critically, a disregard for past mistakes. The present pier funding clearly demonstrates that disregard, pier funding request, of the Nagawicca Lake Bay characteristics and how the bay tends the lake. How is this true? The bay is an extremely sensitive environment affecting the health of the whole. The bay is the last remaining breeding, spawning habitat for pan and game fish, as well as other aquatic and transient species who depend on it. To disregard this is inexcusable and irresponsible, but also dangerous to the health of the lake as a whole. The shallow water depth and plant life there benefit all organisms, and they, in turn, maintain the health of the lake. What looks like muck to pleasure boaters is a nutrient-rich substrate that feeds native plants that in turn support larger organisms. Indeed, the northern pike that are found in the deepest part of Nagawicca get their start in that bay. This is a complex but delicate ecosystem and the last one on the lake. When the bay environment is destroyed, the carp will dominate the waters. Such an invasion occurred back in the 1950s, and we remember that. That was when the DNR came to the rescue. History has given us this knowledge. We are fools to ignore the lesson. Further, the city is putting the cart before the horse with an application for funding. Why? It has not yet secured a permit from the DNR. The DNR has asked pointed questions about protection of this delicate bay ecosystem. These questions are not optional, and as of this morning have not been answered. On another topic, or another note rather, how does the pier affect lake police patrols? The proposed pier would be adjacent to the police boathouse. There are serious safety concerns that must not be ignored. For all affected, we ask the Common Council to use common sense and reject the grant application for the St. John Bay's pier funding. At the very least, we should have the permit first. Thank you for your attention. Ross and Chloe Wanschneider, WANDSCHNEIDER, 834 Mill Street in Delafield.
All right, are there any other citizens' comments? Come on up.
Susie Thompson, 700 Milwaukee Street. I want to thank both Jackies that came up before, and having read the letter that you did, Jackie Valdi. Several things about the pier I wanted to bring up. First of all, I noticed also that there were numerous questions that DNR asked for answers. And I believe that's been 2 to 3 months ago that they requested answers to the questions. I am hearing from DNR that those answers have not been provided. It sounds in what I'm reading for tonight that what our mayor, Kent Atwell, originally initiated, now it's going to be handed over to Tom Hafner to get those answers, which would have been nice to have been done before tonight. In reference to what was said before about getting the cart before the horse, it certainly sounds that way. I don't know any builder that would be allowed to build a home without having gotten previous approval and review. So you don't ask for money until you've gotten a bid. The other thing that concerns me greatly, when it was noted about police patrols, if you stand on Genesee and look at that spot, and then you look at the approach of people to the spot where the pier is proposed, there is no way to see in summertime where those piers are. I do want you to know that our local middle school and high school kids were very aware of this opportunity that you are creating for them to check out the boats when they're at the pier. There's no way to see them. They could say that they're a part of the family for the boat. Who's going to be there to patrol it? The other thing about the location is that we have a beautiful woodland area that helps hold the ground that would be in an approach area. So where are you going to park all these people and again, have the good viewing? Something, next subject, turn the page. Under number 7, talking about the dredging, I was shocked. If you're looking to appeal to the majority of our lakefront owners, I think more people would benefit by proper dredging, and I understand that it came in well over budget. I've heard more people tell me that dredging is more important to them and that we take care of the lake on the north side as it comes into the lake so it doesn't cause problems, especially for people who do live on the north side and the muck that they're getting that's just basically being washed in. 2 weeks ago, we did have 9 1/8 inches of rain. I heard it said this evening that the lake was up over 11 inches. I was personally there when they opened the dam and let the water come through, and to be honest with you, I was so shocked. I just stood there, I felt like I was wondering if I was in danger to be on that isthmus between St. John's Pond and the Bark River, watching that water coming toward me. I was literally preparing an escape plan, wondering if it was going to wash away. The other thing I wanted to point out, it was 4 years ago right now that the Bark River was lined with the fieldstone, which was beautifully done. But my memories on Facebook show that, and there were many comments of local residents that were not excited about the rock, the way it looked. The plants that were planted are phenomenal. There is a problem, however, with a lack of rock. We're about 14 to 16 inches low as the water comes out of the dam on the south side, which would be toward St. John's Plaza. From the dam overspill to the first picnic table, the ground is underwater 14 to 16 inches. You can go by there tonight or tomorrow. It's still 14 to 16 inches underwater. And the water, the speed of the water, the speed and velocity and the depth of the water is pulling away the earth. So if the dam goes in that area, that's going to take out the mill. That's going to go over to the little tributary, and it's going to be over in the next spot over. So we need to do something about bringing more rock into that area.
All right, Susie, you're past the 5 minutes.
I understand.
Try to wrap it up.
I'm almost there. And there are not as many people, but I am taking more. I have been talking less lately. Last thing on my list is under 7 KNL, Lake Country Fire and Rescue. I was at the special presentation a week ago today, and I thought it was very well done by our fire chief. He had talked about the cost of and the reason for getting additional money for Lake Country Fire and Rescue. One of the easiest solutions was that all 1,102 parcels in the city of Delafield would pay $82 per parcel to bring up more full-time and more better paid overall. I just want to point out under 6A for the library levy, that's at $22 per thousand. That's actually very similar, and I'm a big reader. I've read over 90 books this year, so I use the library. But keep in mind the money that you have under the consent agenda is a very similar amount to what Lake Country Fire and Rescue was asking for. I find our libraries very important, but I also find that if we call 911 because of a fire or an emergency, we expect Lake Country Fire and Rescue to be there. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone else? Come on up. Yep, the only one left.
Hi guys, I'm Michael Dumore, 2812 Horseshoe Bend, and you know me, you know I'm angry with good reason. So much to be said, so little time. But I'm so tired of having to come here to fight for my city. I really love this city. You guys know this. I really love this city. You know, back in December we started coming in, those few of us who actually knew about this, and we fought about Nagawicca Heights, and we got, you know, it's perfunctory, as I said, because we all got to talk, and we all were thanked for our comments, and they were all promptly ignored. So the subdivision went in, and then right behind that, they put in quarter-acre lots right next door. The contradiction is just ridiculous. But one of the things I said is, you know, you're just opening the door to future problems right on 83. And that's what's going on right now. Now you're going up the street on 83, and you're putting in light industry and commerce and saying, but you know what, we're quaint and charming. But, you know, we'll put this light industry in, but we're quaint and charming. We're not like Heartland, says Amy. We're not like Economo, says Amy, but we're using them as the master plan. The circle talk we're getting is ridiculous. We're Lake Country, which it's a beautiful little town. We're getting taxes as you want, but at the destruction of the very thing that we love. Now, Tim, you seem to be like one of the more conscientious people. You seem to actually really care about this city, and I'm pleased for that. But one of the things you said last time at the last meeting was, you know, it seems like a shame to put in this light industry, which, by the way, let's define light industry. That's a whole other issue. It seems like, let's not put light industry here by the bridge right by that farm because it's nestled in there. It's very peaceful and quiet, you said. And let's bring it down to Oakwood, which happens to be, by the way, where I live. And guess what's there? There's a horse ranch where little kids come to learn how to ride horses. It's peaceful, it's quiet. There's a park there, peaceful and quiet. And just because somebody put the east side of 83 on fire, don't add fuel to the fire and make the full-on explosion. Just because you're trying to get your taxes and get whatever you want, let's keep the sanctity of Delafield. If you got to do your work and do something else, then do it. Don't destroy our city. People came here on Saturday. None of them, the entire place, none of them none of them received the notice that there's a meeting, but they heard about it and they showed up on a Saturday, showed up at the meeting after that because nobody wanted it. And by the way, it begs the question, what's the point of a master plan if you're going to not only ignore it, but trample all over it? I could go on and on and on, but I know time is an issue here. Please do your job. Please care about our city. We love this place. Don't turn it into Blue Mound Road, where I grew up in Brookfield. What a destruction, and that's where you're headed.
All right, thanks for your comments. Okay, seeing no other citizens present, citizens' comments are now closed. Move on to the consent agenda.
I'd like to remove item 6A from the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a motion for 6B and C?
Also move.
Yeah, hold a second.
Second by Grimmer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes?
Yeah, so I just removed it just because I just want to highlight a couple things that kind of jumped out at me, and that is two things. One, the fact that the entirety of the Wisconsin Waukesha County Federated Library System, WCFLS, their budget increase across all of the libraries involved is 5.5%. And that passes down to Delafield at a dollar amount of 5.68%. And that is going to be the single largest year-to-year increase that we've had since 2015, and that was after we had a major dip. So from a 2-year standpoint, it's about as big of increase as we've had in the last 15 years for our 13 years. And I just want to highlight the fact that it seemed, I'm curious why, I understand that there's lots of municipalities involved. It seems like nobody but one or two of these, maybe just one, escaped what's clearly something that's well beyond their ability to levy via the levy limits. So all these municipalities, all these library systems involved are going to have to get this money from a different department. And for Delafield, that means we're going to be taking this $24,000 increase from our Department of Public Works or our city administration. Because the police is kind of set, but we'll go for them as much as we can. So I would like, as a part of the budgeting process, the library to help suggest where this difference should come from based on where our levying capabilities will be.
Yeah,
This is just my statement from the standpoint that assuming that we come in somewhere in the ability to levy around 3% without a referendum, we're taking that money from something else, and that 2.5% is like somewhere between 9 and 15 grand. We got to take that from someone, and it's
okay. But am I missing something? Isn't what we're looking at here? The chart below for your community's necessary minimum library appropriation to qualify for exemption from county library tax. So if we don't like this, we can just pay it in another way. We're going to get hit with the tax. So I don't understand how, and A, and B, why would we expect the library to tell us where to take the money? Isn't that our job?
And I got another question. I thought it was all a pass-through. Is that not the case this year?
So my point is that we have a library board that represents our interests to Wisconsin Federated Library that was Waukesha County Federated Library System. I would like them to help make our case that this is our situation and that this levy seems unreasonable to me for the entirety of Waukesha County. I mean, I know our city has our own situations, and some people might be able to just absorb this. I'm saying in our situation, we have to take this from someone else, and I would like, just as a point of note here, to say that I would like our library board to make that case for Delafield that this fee that we're being charged is in excess of our ability to levy fairly across all of our departments, and that I would like them to make that case and help suggest where the money comes from.
If we don't do this, we still are going to owe money. But,
Oh, I can't.
Okay.
We have to change state law.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of our
but
problems.
I'm saying that
yeah.
I'm saying that I think that Waukesha, in the times we're in as a state and as a city and as a county, I don't understand where they think 5.5% across all Waukesha County municipalities is a fair assessment on people for their library. Library is an essential service, but so is fire. We're getting a bill thrown over a wall from them. We're getting a bill thrown over the wall from these people, and it's got to come from somewhere. I'm frustrated that we just get handed this. We have no vote in it. And other people that don't even have libraries are in the same situation.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you
I'm
look
not
at it,
blaming
we're
the
not-
library. I want our library board to fight for the good cause. As you know, we went to referendum as a city to say we're in this situation. Here's the services we want to fight for. We're working our best to cut costs. This doesn't look like a cost-cutting effort by Waukesha County Library System to me, and I just I'm pointing that out as a point of the consent agenda. I've never made an issue of this before in the last 12 years, and I think it's unreasonable for WCFLS to dump this on us at this particular time.
I would like to point
This
out.
isn't directed at you, Jackie. I'm saying this to our library board. I would like them to raise the flag and say, I know we can't do anything about it, but I don't think it's right.
It may be, but we're the fourth lowest rate hike of all of those
Okay, I
people.
mean, we get punched.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
last.
saying, we're getting punched,
I'm just
but
saying.
we're not 13.77.
I want to know what they're doing with this $700,000 that they're taxing. I mean, I don't know why they need it today.
Well, we do have the director of the library sitting here, if you
that would
want
be
to, but I
reasonable.
thought this was on the consent agenda, so.
Not now. I took it off. That's what. So
Okay.
it's fine. I mean, no, this turns into a budget issue next, but we can't do anything about it. I would like our library board to fight for the fact that they're part of this community and they work across the hall from the people where some money has to come from to pay for this. I don't think it's right.
Well, I think that's a great point, Tim, and not only have your library board fight for it, but have our county supervisors pass a more reasonable budget increase.
I agreed. So maybe this could have been citizens' comments, but
And again, Matt, this has nothing to do with a budget approved by the county. This is a set equation. The problem is this is antiquated. This is based on the old school concept that the more municipalities' value increases, the more you can afford to pay in services. That's no longer the case with the caps that have been set by levy limits. We don't get significant budget increases with growth and value. We only get budget increases with new construction.
So help me understand, I apologize. Where does this is the predetermined calculation
It is. And
based on state law?
Yeah, and there's been a couple of years where the city's increase has been 8 or 7 or 8%, and there's been a couple of years where the change was negative. Like a couple of years where it was like negative 2%, I think, Stephanie, is that right?
Well, then I'll strike my comments and instead of county, insert state.
well,
So can somebody answer my question? Because I thought, regardless, it was always a pass-through. Am I not correct in that?
It's not a pass-through. This takes up our available levy.
there is, and this is a question then I'll take for when we talk about our budget, but, and I know that this letter was received in the middle of August, I think by you, probably Tom and Stephanie, I'm sure, but I didn't see it till this packet was put together, and it's asking, from Carol Kennedy saying, please contact me with questions. So I do have questions I'm going to follow up with her on, and one of them is some of the new policies that they put in place last year, which impact this particular budget about minimum level of service and some other things that are referenced in her letter. But that's not necessarily, I don't think that necessarily affects the budget, but it used to be some terminology that was eliminated a few years ago about our budget. But anyway, that's the point I wanted to make, is that we're entering the budget season. Usually this is a pretty easy thing to deal with, but I just think at 5.5% across the entire county, some of these numbers are causing other people a lot more grief than us. But ours at 5.68%, I just know we're gonna have to go find 12 grand from someone else. And it's gonna come from a different group here. Again, it's not our library, it's not our library director, it's not, but I want our library board to help fight for us, and I don't know how they can, but I'll be talking to our
And again, I want
officials.
to make it clear that as long as the state statute exists the way it does today, municipalities have two logical ways to go: either not have a library or pay this amount. There's really no in between. It talks about the city's contribution being $442,489. If we decided only to give $400,000, we would be out the $400,000, and then our residents would be taxed another $442,489 by the county.
Does that make it clear?
Oh, it's crystal clear to me. And I'll tell you, the subsidization that this formula gives us to support our library gives us a beautiful amenity right downtown. We're paying the same as we would if we didn't have a library, and we have a library. We just have to provide the brick and mortar, which we did with a referendum back in 2010. I'm just saying that we could have the same thing without a 5.5% increase. They didn't have to do this to us right now. And I'm just saying the entire Waukesha County, I think it shows a disregard for the budget situation that most of our fellow municipalities are.
I don't think we know enough. I wouldn't be comfortable making that statement, that's for sure. But I think looking at inflation across the board, I don't know why we're the least bit surprised.
So,
Go ahead.
sorry, Jackie. What factors go into that predetermined calculation? And so what recourse do we have? If it's a predetermined state calculation, then, like you said, we've had increases of 8 to 9% some years and decreases some years.
Stephanie, are you able to comment on that?
Again, Stephanie, I'm not mad at you. I just think this is a tough time for a pass down of
Sure.
this amount.
I have to introduce myself. And
Yep, everybody does.
Stephanie Ramirez, Library Director, right across the hall, 500 Genesee Street. I'm not sure which way to go with it. No, as Tom said, I'm going to reiterate everything Tom said. This is a state law. This is a state formula that they found. It is based on the mill rate as well. We are given that to exempt ourselves every year. This is not anything, as Tom said, it is fluctuating. This is nothing that the library brought forward. This is nothing that the county has brought forward. This is a state rate. And everything that Tom said regarding consequences is the truth as well.
So do you know what's included in the formula, the state formula?
I don't. That is on the...
I don't have enough of a crystal clear recollection. And when I dove into the Waukesha County Federated Library System budgets and their formulas, it seems like there are things within their control as far as staffing levels and other things where if they sought out cuts, they're not bound. I do not believe that they're bound by a certain level of taxation to us. So that's my general statement. I believe that if they went to look for cuts across the board, I don't believe that they were mandated to pass this down to us at this level. I believe that the share based on residents and TNRs and all that thing as far as borrowing,
Right.
how that formula divides up their budget is determined by state, but I don't believe that their budget is determined by the state.
So there are some subjective inputs to that
I believe
formula.
so. I might be wrong.
You have a, like you would have a CPI increase, you would have a use increase that is static or changes from year to year based on those inputs, but there would be some subjective input by our.
What do you think, Stephanie?
I don't think there's subjective.
I don't think there is
inputs.
either.
I think it's all black and white.
Correct.
Okay.
But the main point of the formula is when property values go up significantly, you're going to see the library end up with significant increases.
That's
when property values don't go up much, the increases will be modest. And if property values go down, you're going to see our required contribution to the library actually go down from year to year.
Well, then why do they lower the levy rate? I mean, why do they lower the taxation rate?
So this rate is lower than last year's.
So why do
But the
they?
equalized
So you said
values are
because values went
significantly
up, they lower the rate. So it means there's something they don't have.
I don't fully understand the calculation of the
Okay.
mill rate that they charge.
All right, I'm willing to. We have to pass this, or we're in a pickle after next week.
Correct.
So I'm just bringing up the fact that.
I think we need to make some phone calls to Madison.
That I can speak to a little bit. Yes, you're right. You do. It does need to be passed by the end of the month. I did pass this on as soon as I got it to Tom and Molly to get it on this agenda. This is every year, and this is very common and on the agenda every time. And I can speak. You mentioned Tim's standards. We are held to Waukesha County standards as part of this exemption. Those did change a little bit this year. I can send what those standards are to you. Those are probably the ones you were mentioning. Those are included staffing, as you mentioned, that we have Wi-Fi, that there are certain other standards that we have to meet. As much as we need to spend as much per capita as well, I can send you those. We did agree to those. The library board agreed to those a few months ago, and we agree to those every year. So.
Stephanie, do you think we could invite the county library director to come and talk to the council
Absolutely.
about the formula?
Yes, I think she would like doing that to clear up any questions. Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is there anything further? Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Stephanie.
One question, I'm sorry, if it's off the consent agenda, is...
We have to make a motion and pass
Okay,
it. Yep.
thank you.
We'll be voting. Don't worry about it.
I'll make the motion to request exemption from the Waukesha County Library levy.
I'll second.
I mean, the gun is big. It's pointed right at our head.
Tim, it's really to pass resolution 2022-26.
2022-26 is a resolution I make the motion for.
Motion from Tim, second from,
I second.
got it. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we are now done with the consent agenda. Move on to boards, committees, and commission reports. First one is licenses. Nothing? Okay, we'll move on to 7B, Planning Commission. Mr. Eicher, please.
Okay, so minutes from our last meeting have been posted, but just want to keep everyone advised that as some of the comments were made, the properties between, if you think about Oakbrook Church and Oakwood Road, just west of Highway 83, there's farms all the way up to Vedelson Road and the railroad tracks up just south of the Pick and Save. Not farms. There's other things too. There's plenty of houses and there's woods and all that. But so part of the Economic Development Committee's recommendation was to look at long-term land use for those properties. Is RE2 the right thing for development long-term? Does that suit the objectives of the city's master plan currently and how we look at it to possibly revise it? And the applicant for that particular land use change is the city based on the economic development plan, our group's recommendation. So we don't have a development that's saying, hurry up and do this. We're gonna, we have a proposal. There's probably people that are very interested based on the fact that this is being discussed. But in our last meeting, we took a cursory look at this based on the information we've had for some time. and shared some thoughts, asked some questions, and it's going to come back up again in our next Plan Commission meeting about what types of things we see appropriate for that land. So anyone who's talked or sent in notices, and you don't have to come all the time, but I encourage the participation. People are being heard, they're being listened to. Everyone on the Plan Commission is a resident in the community, and we're looking to do something that makes sense and not necessarily treat individual proposals over the next 20 years piecemeal without a grander scheme in place. And that's the purpose of reviewing a land use plan. There's no zoning changes proposed at this point. So I don't know if that made it clearer or more vague, but the idea is there's no tight schedule to get something, a shovel in the ground. Might be tomorrow. I mean, someone might come up and say, I want to do this, let's speed this along. But we are looking at different things as far as what light industrial parks might look like, ones that people who own the land and some of the land in this area have done before, as a possible consideration. So this is all blue sky right now. There's nothing written down. So just keep providing input, come to the meetings, watch them, give feedback to, most importantly, your elder people, and ask questions. Aside from that, our meetings scheduled as usual at the end of the month.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to Lake Welfare Committee. Mr. Price.
Yes, Lake Welfare, we met twice this month. The first one was a special meeting to discuss the results of the dredging bids. We had 3 bids. Unfortunately, the lowest bid was twice what our budget was. So we're recommending to reject those bids because we can't afford them. So we're going to go back to the drawing board, look at other options possibly, if there are any. The biggest cost, I think, of the $500,000 that came back, $550,000 I think was the lowest bid. A good chunk of that was just setup costs, building the road, bringing in the equipment. There was just a little bit left to actually do dredging. So we're trying to figure out ways of possibly changing those setup costs in some way. We're not sure what that is, but we've got some feelers out to the North Lake project and seeing if they came up with something special that we could piggyback on, whatever. But it's unfortunate because we're all set to do that, and then the bids come in much higher than we anticipated. The second meeting was the Lake Awareness meeting on September 7th at the Yacht Club. It was very nicely attended. It was a full house, and we had discussions by the police department, from the DNR, and from the Walleye Restoration Group. So, a real nice meeting. That's it.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to 7D, Park and Rec and Tree Board.
I want to comment on the lake meeting at the Yacht Club. Was very helpful.
So we're still on talking about Lake Welfare Committee then.
Just to follow that meeting was very educational. I was there as well and learned a lot.
Good.
I thought I knew a lot. No, I learned. So thanks to Lake Welfare for putting that on.
Good. As a matter of housekeeping, I'll make the motion to reject the bids for the Lake Nagawicca dredging project at the Bark River.
I'll second it.
I regret that it's not getting done. I truly do.
Yeah.
Who had the second?
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, now on to Park and Rec.
Okay, Park and Rec. We also gave the Arts Foundation a waiver for the park rental fee for the next the September 22nd event. And
We can't hear you. I don't know why
we'll have to figure out how to turn up the gain on this
Keep
mic.
it real tight, yeah.
You're just going to practically have to kiss that thing.
Yeah, that's what they say. They say kiss the mic.
So, as we gave the Arts Foundation a event permit fee waiver, Park and Rec gave them the park rental fee waiver for their September event as well. There was a lot of discussion about the band shell / stage. From two members in particular, I'm one of them. Now that we have a sign in Liberty Park, basically promising our constituents a stage, I'm concerned that we're looking for a more specific plan and answers and vision from the Arts Foundation representatives that were at our meeting in terms of funding and timing and that sort of thing. Because now that we have a sign up there with the big brick and mortar stage pictured that says this will happen here, I think we're going to start to get questions from people, and I'm not sure that we have answers. So we've asked the Arts Foundation to come up with as one member put it, an elevator speech of what's the vision and what's the plan and costs and that sort of thing, and timing. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to E, Public Works. Mr. Grimmer.
No meeting, no report.
Oh, you love saying that.
I do.
F, Delafield Commission.
Delafield Commission, we have a meeting tomorrow night, and we are looking for a new business manager, director, HR person. Rose is, I don't believe I'm saying anything that we're talking about how to replace her. So if anybody knows somebody interested in that job, we'd love to save the money on a recruiter, but just have someone perfect walk through the door. So look for the job postings, they're already out, and she'll be missed. She's wonderful. And aside from that, we are like bids for the dredging. We have an upgrade that we're going through where bids came in substantially more than we expected. So we're going to be talking about that again tomorrow. So I'll give you a report at our next meeting on how that goes.
Just related to the finance director posting, we have it on our website.
Oh, great. Yeah, so check out our website if you know someone who loves to deal with accounting, billing, people. I mean, Rose loved the job, so someone else must. So sign up.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to Police Commission. Ms. Valdy.
Police Commission did meet last week on Thursday, and the discussions, the meeting was almost exclusively in closed session. We have a potential retirement coming, and that's about all I can really share right now, because we're working on, as a commission, sort of how to, not only what we're looking for but also how we're going to do things. And I should be able to give a much more open report after our meeting coming up on October 13th.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Library Board.
Hey, yeah.
Ms. Henry.
Obviously going over some budget issues and making sure that's ready for the council. Also just some of the programs, winding up the summer programs, and discussion with the Friends of the Library. Book sale on Saturday mornings, that's going through September, and then we'll go to twice a month after that. So over at the Fish Hatchery.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Zoning Board of Appeals. Valdy, anything on that one this time? Nope. Board of Appeals?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, sorry.
Got it. Okay, Promotion and Tourism. Mr. Schaefer again.
Promotion and tourism, we finished our budgeting process and approved budget. We've also put out an RFP for our marketing partner to do a review and reevaluation for 2023. We could select the same partner or a new one, depending on what sort of proposals we get based on the budget. And also, I just want to mention Plugging on the Bark, coming up again September 24th, 8 a.m. Bark River, bring your spades and help pull invasive species.
What is it called?
Plugging on the Bark.
Plugging on the Bark. Oh my God. Thank you.
Thank you much. Okay, Lee Country Fire and Rescue Commission. I believe they hired a new HR person, But that's all I know that the commission would have potentially been involved with. Okay, L, Lake Country Fire and Rescue Board. Mr. Grimmer.
We've had no meeting since the council presentation by Chief Fenig. Our next meeting is being changed. It looks like it'll be on September 29th at 6. That's a change from
Previous schedule?
Previous schedule, yes. And it looks like we'll have a quorum at that time. I don't have any report other than the one that was given last week, but if there's any discussion or questions concerning the state of Lake Country Fire and Rescue.
Are you inviting questions?
I am.
Oh.
Or concerns, or
yeah.
Basically, well, we all know what we're faced with. So.
No, I get the concern. There's a general concern about maintaining quality of service, but I have concerns about the possible remedies, and in particular, the idea of a fee, and it seems to me that could be potentially very regressive when we look at taxing by individual parcel. You could have an entire entity like Heritage Senior Living getting an $80 bill, and someone who lives in a $90,000 condo getting an $80 bill. And
So, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can we please not use that number, because that number is not accurate?
getting a bill, getting an X dollar bill.
Not an accurate number,
Getting
so let's
a
not
bill
use
for,
it.
regardless of what number it is, and I believe in a pay per use service, but this isn't necessarily that. This is a pay for capacity, and a pay for your, like a membership fee, sort of, to have those people online. You never want to use them. I mean, I would love to pay zero for fire and rescue, but having them there, I'm willing to pay. So I think that the possibility of a fire fee, although seems maybe is very straightforward from an accounting standpoint, I think it's going to get tangled up with an equity issue when you look at how other property taxes are assessed and services are assessed in the city. So I would like to encourage, or I am encouraging the chief and the board to come with a response to that particular concern.
So I want to just kind of caution the discussion here with it not being detailed on the agenda. I'm concerned that we're getting into too deep of a discussion regarding this particular item.
Understood. Okay. Oh, so I have concerns about the fee.
I did share the presentation that Chief Fenig had shared with us on the 12th, and with all my constituents who are signed up for my email. So if you want to see it, sign up for that email, but you can also go online. Anyway, everyone who responded to a person, they were all very supportive of our fire and rescue, and very supportive. I'm not saying people didn't have questions, but I was heartened by the supportive language in the response from our citizens. So I take that on board.
Sounds like this might be a good item when we get to requests for next month's agenda.
Oh, we're going to be here all night then.
We'll hold those until we get to that section.
Just a thought, perhaps. I think
Anything,
we're dying to talk about it. Right?
anything else for Matt? Seeing none, we will move on to other committees, commission, and boards, which includes Deer Management Committee. Ms. Henry.
Yeah, we are into the season already. It has started. We've had people signing up, and we're meeting tomorrow actually to go over roles and to look into how we might potentially change things when this commission ends for moving towards a permanent thing.
Yeah, sounds good. And I would just like to again thank the current Deer Management Committee. They have really stepped up and done a lot of work really all summer and even before summer to get ready for this. This year we are ready, and should do a really good job of what we're capable of to manage the herd. So nice job by everybody on that committee. Okay, we will move on to 8, unfinished business. Discussion of an expansion of the existing tree ordinance on commercial properties to be expanded to residential properties as requested by Alderperson Price. So Tom, are you starting off this one, I presume?
I assumed that Paul would.
Okay.
Well, I'd be happy to start. First, I'd like everybody, if you could just refer to Tom's letter of August 12th. He did a great job of going through how the current law works. We do have a law expanding on tree ordinances for business and commercial property. It does, as Tom pointed out, also include single-family dwellings, but their exclusion for single-family dwellings permitted accessory structures are exempt from the site plan and appearance approval requirements, which includes the tree preservation requirements. So basically, individual homes can do whatever they want right now. The other very strange thing about this law is the one that we do have in the books right now. Before a business, as an example, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Tom, on this, but if you have a property that you want to go in for a building permit, you just simply cut down all the trees first, and then you can go and ask for your building permit, and there's not a single thing that we can do about it. So if we would expand that law to include individual homes, the same issue applies. Before they get their building permit for their home, they just cut all the trees down. That's exactly what the individual did on the property just south of 7 Seas. I think he still has not actually submitted his plan, but prior to that, he cut down all his trees, and there's not a thing we can do about it. So if there's any changes of that plan, it would have to be more of a general plan that affects anybody who's going to cut trees down. It just can't be, when you do a building permit, because there's a way around it that circumvents the whole law. So it wouldn't make any sense. Tom also pointed out if we did a very, very extensive law, or just take the current one and then switch it on to include both business and individual homes, that could bog down the plan commission, the building inspector, and make excess costs, applying for exceptions and everything. The last thing I want to do is create extra cost here. But I think something could be done that would be, in fact, I've talked to the building inspector about it, and he felt there would be a way of just taking that current law, applying it to individual homes, and then watering it down so it only applies for graphic misuse of what the current law is. When somebody's cutting down an entire lot full of 200-year-old oak trees, I mean, this is the city of trees. I mean, what it did to the lake views, it was just unconscionable. And with the same thing would be in an individual, it doesn't have to be just a lake house. It could be on anywhere in the whole city. So,
Could I get clarification? Would this require an inventory by the city forester of all properties in the city to make the determination if trees were cut down or not?
potentially the way the current law is, probably yes. Would you agree, Tom?
Well, the current law, there's not an inventory performed until a property is planning on developing, then that property is required to hire a forester to perform the inspection. I think Matt is asking, would we do an entire inventory of the entire city? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying,
Right
because
up front.
to prevent someone from clear cutting and then saying, no, there weren't any trees there ever.
I can't even imagine what that would cost.
Oh, I'm not advocating it. I'm inquiring that in order to make it effective, would that be a requirement? Or are there less costly alternatives?
And if you went that route,
Google Maps or
if you went that route, how frequently would you have to update it?
Yeah.
I would like to suggest that we don't make perfect the enemy of the good. I think the idea of tree protection and having an overt language therein is preferable I sincerely doubt the city's going to, catalog every tree beyond a certain caliber inch on every lot, in every parcel in the city. That's not the point. The point is to encourage a language and an ethic of preservation. Many municipalities around this country and frankly the world do that. And I'm convinced we can do it too. We don't have to catalog everything. I can tell you on my little humble Mill Street, somebody cut down every single tree, and there were many black walnuts, full-size, beautiful trees. Every single one of them was cut down. And I live under black walnut, so I know what you're thinking.
Get rid of them all.
I have found many things that will grow under there. But anyway, I was shocked to find out we don't have some kind of policy that would at least speak to that, So I applaud the effort and think we should think of something.
I think that's a good point, not making the perfect the enemy of the good. Would it have, would this have prevented what happened on the eastern shore of the lake? If this proposal were in effect?
If we use the existing law, probably no, because he cut it down prior to the point that he would have had to apply for it. What I'm looking to do is something like just a general ordinance that if you cut down, say, X number of, say, 50%, 20%, 30%, whatever, but if you're going to clear cut half of your lot, you can't do it without getting permission of the building inspector. Just so there's some control over a graphic misuse of the city property. Nothing, we're not cataloging as in just a general thing that Scott can work with. That's something reasonable. He doesn't want to create any extra input either, but he thinks there's something you could do. What I'd like to do, just to get further discussion on this, is to make a motion that the council would instruct Tom After, Amy Burrow, Scott Hesinger to come back to the council with a reasonable, easy to administer ordinance to protect against massive cutting of trees in Delafield, and only to hardwood trees. I mean, not the scrump trees, not the buckthorn, but I mean, good. You could do it over a certain size, like over 6 inches in depth or something, but something reasonable that I think most people would embrace, saying, yeah, we've got to protect. We've got, the trees take 200 years to grow, and we're going to just let them cut them all down just like nothing, without even anybody even discussing it. Because Scott could look at it and say, yeah, we're looking at this and say, hey, I understand what the problem issue here. He's got to get it done. I'll agree to do this, this, and this. But at least somebody's overseeing it.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
For purposes of discussion, and just say I agree entirely with the intent. I fear possible unwanted results, and that would be, I'll just give you an example. So you buy a lot that has 2 just fantastic oak trees on it, and you want to cut one of them down because you want a garden. I mean, I don't think that we need a law where the building inspector has some sort of discretionary capability to say you can cut that tree down, you can't cut that tree down, or like Scott doesn't. I don't believe he wants it either. I don't want to speak for him, but he has asked for clarification. Like, give me something to measure, give me a volumetric, give me a grid to put it in. But what I would like to suggest that the form of the motion take as far as a recommendation to staff is that they find an ordinance that we can replicate that's kind of stood the test of time and has accomplished what we want to do. And I think anyone here can help research that and send them stuff from Elm Grove or Mequon, or pick whatever place you want in northern Chicago where they're really tight about it, or go wherever and give them some ideas of general guidelines where things could be guidelines that can be enforced without restricting people. Because I think if you buy a lot and you own the trees,
right,
and I think that cutting them down is so. This is an investigation point to find a piece of legislation we can pass, and so I'm in favor of that.
I'm in favor of the investigation as well. I guess some of my initial concerns is, like, I think it's important what happened to that property. I love trees. I buy tons of trees, and I want to preserve trees. However, my concerns start to focus on someone's property rights. And yes, you buy the property, you buy the trees. And troglodytes and people who don't love trees have rights too. And even though I don't like what they're doing and in some cases abhor it,
I would like to leap in here as the environmental science girl here. A tree is not whether you like it or not, even though I think you should all love them. You don't need to hug them, and I don't really care if people like them. They have a function, and what you do is not in isolation. Each lot owned by someone who perceives themselves as autonomous is not, in fact, a separate entity. What you do or not do on your lot impacts everything around us. As I've said to a certain senator sitting in a political thing, the birds and the breezes around here do not read state boundaries. They do not read property lines. So when you cut down all the trees and you pave things, you create hardscape, you kill things around you unintentionally. So it's more important than whether or not I have all this autonomy. You'll have most of it anyway. But most communities, before Europeans settled this state, squirrel, this is the legend, I did my senior thesis on this, could climb up a tree along Lake Michigan and never touch the ground until it hit the Mississippi River. We were completely forested in this part of Wisconsin. So I'm troubled that we're, talking about someone's, autonomy on their lawn. I think we need to, as a city, have a bigger look at it. I look at very crowded, very urban cities all around us, and they have way more respect for and more trees just in there. And that's what I'm saying. You'll have to cut some trees down if you're building on a lot and it's all over there. It's just more of a dialogue and just more of an awareness that your lot is not really just yours and you're a little island and what you do is up to you. No, because what you do there impacts, just like all my neighbors' walnut trees that hang over my yard. And I'm picking up the walnuts and I didn't plant them and I can't even, do anything. It's okay.
No, I appreciate that. And it's especially pertinent when you're talking about people that live on the lake, who buy properties and spend oodles of money in part to appreciate a view. And when that view is partially sacrificed, their
but they don't
properties
have to clear cut the whole property for the back of the yard. You know what I mean? There are ways to work it out.
I guess I would like to see that ordinance.
Absolutely. I don't want I'd want to see my lake view if I had one.
Well, the one comment I'd like to make is researching these ordinances, please take into consideration and read carefully where the costs are for these ordinances. It's one thing to have an ordinance, but we don't have $180,000 a year to hire somebody to manage this process. So whatever the ordinance is, it needs to be something that can work with current staff and current staff levels.
Absolutely.
So please keep that in mind as you research these ordinances.
And we don't have to it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to get expensive if we try to be perfect. I looked at the ordinance, looked at the DNR shoreline requirements, which are similar in a lot of respects. And I looked at it with the devil's eye and said, okay, how could I cheat this? And there's ways to cheat if you really want to, but I think a good ordinance is a big deterrent and it will help. It might not solve every situation in the future, but it'll prevent some of them.
All right. Any other discussion on this topic? Oh, wait, actually, we have a motion.
Yeah, a motion,
Yeah, we have a motion. Okay. Can you please read back the motion?
Motion to direct staff to create an ordinance to expand the tree ordinance to protect against massive cutting of trees of value in the city.
Okay. So,
Did that capture what you had?
yeah, I guess. Well, this will be automatic, then we go back to the, to Tom and his group to decide if there's something that would make it be reasonable, that we could come back to the committee for a future meeting.
Paul, I got a question for clarification. In the expanded wording that you used, you mentioned specifically that it would apply to hardwoods. Would you not want it to apply to high-quality coniferous trees?
Pines.
Good point. Let's see what some of the other laws are handling that.
Okay.
We
I just
have a
wanted to
specific
exclude
list
the
of.
Answers yes.
Just wanted to exclude the. I just wanted to exclude the scrub trees.
trees.
To make it simple.
The city, well, we'll see what we come up with.
So does the DNR. There's a list by species of trees that we consider, I don't remember the term, but valuable trees.
Yeah, we would plan to use the same list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we'll move on to 8B, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 806, an ordinance to prohibit through trucking of heavy trucks on Genesee Street through the downtown area. Giving this one to Paul, or are you doing this one?
I'll take this one, if you don't mind, Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we did work with our city attorney, and we think we came up with an elegant solution to put the desired restriction into place. We did reach out via snail mail and email to Wolf Paving, Okauchee Ready Mix, and Waukesha County as interested stakeholders, and did not receive comment from any of them. And so this would restrict trucks with an empty weight of 13 tons or greater would be prohibited from driving on Genesee Street in between I-94 and Oakwood Drive unless they met one of the exemptions provided for. And one of those exemptions would be deliveries within the highlighted area and on the map on page 31 in the packet. If this gets approved, that highlighted area on the map would be added to our official weight limit map of the city.
And I'd also like to repeat something that was brought up in the past. If this is approved, there'll be an implementation period of, I'm not sure exactly, but I'll say a couple months for the police department to educate people. It's not an instant thing where we need citizens calling us, telling them they saw a truck go through, because there's going to be some time to try to, work with people. But there will be a certain point, I'm guessing maybe 2-3 months down the road, where it will be regularly enforced. The warning period will be over. So I just want to reiterate that's the tentative plan has been discussed with me and the police chief.
But also keep in mind that once that tentative period is over, we've got 1 to 2 police officers on duty at any one time, and they've got a significant number of tasks they performed, and this would be one of many.
It's a good point.
The exemption is any vehicle who's picking up, delivering, or moving commodities to or from a place of business in the city or residence in the city.
In the yellow area.
In the yellow area on that map on page 31.
Okay, I'm looking at number 9 on the ordinance, section 2, item 9. It doesn't reference the yellow highlight.
It says expressly permitted by the special and seasonal weight limit map on file with the city clerk. That's why I mentioned that if this gets approved, that area in yellow would be added to the special weight limit map as being this exemption.
So that would be the special map that referred to. So if I have a truck going to Hawthorne Farms construction project, instead of going 3 miles, I need to go 10 miles around the lake to get there.
Where's the truck coming from?
South of the yellow zone. The gravel.
I mean, they could
Yes,
take,
we're mainly concerned about the gravel trucks.
yeah, they could take
Dirt trucks.
94 to P,
Instead of going
You
3
may
miles.
take 18.
P to Main Street, and
So we're increasing traffic in the city.
decreasing traffic on
Increasing.
Genesee Street,
We're
increasing traffic on
in
other
the city of
roads.
Delafield.
Well, decreasing traffic on Highway C and increasing it on other roads.
Yeah, and overall, we're increasing it because we're forcing those vehicles to drive 3 times the distance they would normally drive. We have 2 routes, right, north-south routes in Delafield,
Correct.
and we're concentrating traffic on one when I think we need to diffuse it because we have a lake that's in the way and always will be. We're going to concentrate traffic on what is essentially a 2-lane, half of it's a 2-lane road instead of the other 2-lane road on the west side of the lake. And increasing traffic miles in doing so.
I agree. You are correct. Trucks will be on the road longer and driving farther, but not going through downtown. That totally makes sense.
Going through somebody else's neighborhood.
Alrighty. Any other discussion?
And one more comment. I think I'm going to lose this one, but that's okay. I'm just going to have to say why I can't. I'm not comfortable with it. Is it doesn't solve the problem. Even if we ignore the grain construction traffic as being an outlier, the best we're going to do is reduce heavy truck traffic on C by 25% and move it somewhere else. We don't solve the problem. We take what is now 600 trucks a week, and we reduce it to 450 trucks a week on Highway C.
I would also argue, though, that a main point of concern for residents about some of the developments that we do have going on, like St. John's Golf Course and other ones, is specifically geared toward how traffic is managed with the stop signs, the multiple stop signs downtown on Genesee. And I believe that Highway 83 and Highway P are better equipped to manage having big, heavy, slow, loud dump trucks on those roads versus
Without question.
the multiple stops through downtown and what it does to the quality of living for people who live on, 100 feet from the road at some of the more expensive condominium places in the city. And this is not a new complaint. These complaints about noises, once we try to focus in on Harleys, I think go too well. We're picking on dump trucks now.
I was going to mention that
But,
one.
but I believe that the other road, and personally, I totally agree with your premise that it's increasing miles on the road and moving it someplace else. But I believe anything we can do to alleviate any of that stress and strain of that type of traffic on Highway C is to the benefit of the community. That's my position on it, but I agree with your analysis.
And I agree with it as well. One thing I would add is this council has passed ordinance before and repealed them. So
It's true.
that happens. And we could be wrong about this. And so a year from now, 2 years from now, we can always revisit this.
Based on what I know of this ordinance, I fully support it. It's an immediate reduction to heavy truck traffic downtown. It will be less wear and tear on our expensive crosswalks and things that we love as part of the beautification of the city. And I just think it's if at an absolute minimum, it's worth trying to see how it works.
It's downtown. It's what generates the traffic. I've lived in one of those, not here, but on the condo on Highway 32. That's 3 times the traffic of 83. And that's part of you move downtown. That's where the action is, that you kind of expect that. If you move to a quiet side street, you expect that. So it's part of the convenience of being in a downtown area is it requires that kind of activity. So that's what I had to say.
Okay, I'm glad you said it. Alrighty, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Yeah, we
say we didn't have a
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we had a motion. I'm sorry, I'm ahead of the
That's why you
game.
were able to toss.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the language that Tom just presented for the
I would approve ordinance number 806.
806, okay.
Second.
Alrighty, let's try that one more time the correct way. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Oh, we got one no. One no. All right, it passes. We'll move on to the next item, Mayor's Report. Discussion of possible action on the following items, accept the resignation of Jim Wren from the Deer Management Committee.
Move to accept Jim's resignation.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention passes. 2, accept the resignation of Mark Malott from the Lake Welfare Committee and the Public Works Committee.
Move to approve his resignation.
I'll second, even though he says he's only gonna be here half the time. Half a mark is like twice a lot of people. So.
I'd only add to that before we vote, that's one of the best resignation letters I've read.
Yeah, yeah. Mark did a wonderful job, there's no doubt about it, for many years, on 2 committees. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention passes. Okay, then we'll move on to A3, confirm the appointment of Jim Ellsworth to the citizen member position. We got a mix-up here on the agenda. To the Lake Welfare Committee, it should be vacated by Mark Malott, term to expire April 2023.
Wait,
I think you jumped numbers on
no, you
us.
skipped.
Yeah, so,
Oh, so
Yeah, I took-
Ellsworth is going on Lake Welfare.
Jim should be.
Mark Malott has left the Lake Welfare Committee, and his term expires April 2023, and Jim will replace him.
Okay.
Just the names
gotcha.
got
The
switched
names
on
got
the agenda,
switched.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, I move to approve Jim on Lake Welfare.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Let's see if I can get this right this time. Then number 4 is confirm the appointment of Joe Reynoso to the citizen member position on the Deer Management Committee, vacated by Jim Wren, term to expire April 2024.
I'll move to approve Joe to Deer Management.
I'll second.
Point of clarification, the committee has a sunset clause of next year, so his term can't go past that, could it?
It'll be whatever.
Because you said the
clerk would
24, but
determine.
the sunset clause is on the 20th, is 2023.
Or to the sunset clause, I imagine would be the proper way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, there's conflicting part of the ordinance where it talks about 2-year terms and then a sunset clause. I don't see a harm appointing them to a date beyond the sunset clause, and then when the committee sunsets, it will end.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Just real quick, I know there's discussion on the Deer Management Committee of removing the sunset date, of proposing to remove the sunset date.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Passes. Okay, we'll move on to 10, new business. A, discussion and action to set the date of the 2022 City of Delafield Trick or Treat. I'm looking forward to this one, as I do every year. I handed out some comparison information for you this morning, or this afternoon, to highlight a couple of things. First of all, sunset on October 31st is 5:45 p.m. I listed the various communities in the area and the dates and times that they currently have. I think it's always interesting every year, and the show that adheres to whatever the city of Delafield picks as their official Halloween date. And the Packers play Buffalo on Sunday, October 30th at 7:20.
Those are all these very...
All important things to take into consideration.
Better believe it.
And a few other comments. You know, over the years, I've seen different complaints depending upon what date we pick. Sometimes the complaint is For example, I'm really involved with Halloween. I can't get home from work in time to get set up for the kids that are going to be coming to my door. Please take that into consideration next time. Sometimes parents with young children would prefer to have some time in the daylight to do it as well. Then there's other parents that want to be sure that there's time at night as well, right? And then last and probably least important is this often tends to be a social gathering event in neighborhoods. Not all, but some. And having an opportunity to not have to put the kids in bed early for a school night or something like that gives them that opportunity to take advantage of that. So all things I would hope we would take into consideration as we pick this very important date.
I will weigh in. And I will actually, how about I make, well, I have a question. Do you know what times we did last year? Was it 4 to 8 or 4 to 7?
I think it was 5 to 8.
5 to 8, okay.
I like Saturday, October 29th myself.
I was going to say Lake Country School is off Thursday and Friday that week.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to be everybody early to bed. Like that's going to be the first day back. It's like the 31st will be the first day back at school after being off for 2 days. So I would not prefer it to be that day.
Saturday? That's Saturday.
No, the Monday. Like
not the
actual
Monday.
Halloween is going to be their first day
Yeah.
back at school after having a really long weekend. So I would say that's probably not a good day to do it because the kids are going to be tired already from having a long weekend.
Well, I did a very unofficial straw poll, and based on my own experience, my youngest are 22 now, so I feel super old. But we did move with a handful of kids that were from babies to 5 when we moved out here, and we loved what the policy has kind of been to try and fit it into a weekend because we could have grandma and grandpa over and we could watch, have food and everyone could get involved. So and rushing home from work or even having the kids walking around on the street when people are coming home from work, I think is if we can avoid that. All the better. The people in my neighborhood that do have kids, I talked to a few of them. I only gave them the option of Sunday or Monday. They picked Sunday, but I think Saturday worked great.
I
too.
like Saturday.
I agree with the folks in my neighborhood. They like to whoop it up, and Saturday's a great night to do that. And then you can still celebrate on Halloween.
Waukesha.
Go to a different community.
You can party hard. So what about times? Is 5 to 8 enough? Probably.
Traditionally it has, but
I don't
have
give
some
much
time
after
for
7,
daylight,
7:30.
sometime for night. You get them both out.
Yeah, as long as you get some
I
daylight
think
hours
that's
in there.
good because the 45 minutes or
So if
for the young ones to do is I think a good amount of time.
All right, I'll make a motion for official Halloween for City of Delafield to be Saturday, October 29th from 5 to 8.
Second.
Second.
oh, I think Mr. Grimmer beat you.
You beat me to it.
All right, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we are on to 10B, discussion and action to approve the 2023 Common Council calendar, which includes setting the dates and times for Trick or Treat for 2023. I'd ask we hold off on that until a Packer schedule comes out or
That's what I
something.
was going to say. I need to delay that.
It is a Wednesday, but still, I guess the 31st is.
31st is, on our calendar that you have here is a Tuesday.
So I was trying to be proactive. There is a memo in the packet. I'm trying to find it. My bookmarks aren't working here. That have the day. I apologize. Bear with me. I'm sorry.
I think it's 44.
I figured it would not be contentious because there is no Packer game on the day that we had it, so we could get ahead of the game because this year we were a little behind because I've been out. Here it is, okay. So it is the 31st next year is, oh geez Louise. Tuesday, October 31st. So it's a Tuesday, so I didn't see that there would be any issue with Packer games on a Tuesday. And my suggestion was also to keep the time, but if council would prefer to wait, then we can just remove that from the calendar and go forward with approving the common council calendar meeting schedule without that on there.
We could also look at the Saturday before, following what we did just now. Or put it off.
I'll move to approve the 2023 calendar without a determination on 2023 trick or treat.
It's important.
I'll second.
I have a question. I did not have a chance to look through all the dates and stuff. Is that basically the same type of schedule that we've had the past few years for council, planning commission, et cetera?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, geez. So yeah, the calendar follows the same dates with multiple meetings, or the same months with 2 meetings versus 1 meeting as we had for last year, which followed the year previous. So it's at least 2 years for that schedule.
Sounds good.
Can I just get a reminder on who had the second for that?
Tim.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we'll move on to 10C, discussion of options for updating the city website, including a budget item for updating the city's software website to something that would allow the city to easily sort and communicate with specific citizens as requested by Alderperson Henry.
Yes, so I'll just be this is general for now, but I find our website is pretty difficult to maneuver and not super user-friendly. And I think that we get a lot of feedback that people aren't using it, and I think it's because it's not intuitive. So I don't think our staff has the time or to be able to manage it. So I would like us, I think it's really, really important. We talk about this all the time about better communication and better resources with our citizens. And I think having an intuitive website where people can find what they're looking for easily without needing to search or find help or ask for help is really, really important. So another thing would be having a way, being able to subscribe to calendars. That's a really basic function that I think most places with online calendars have that ability, and we don't. So I think that's really important that we have that function. And I'd like to include it in the budget to have a third party be able to manage that and just to keep it updated. I think once it gets set up, it'll be relatively low to have that maintained, and just have something that is much more user-friendly and can help us to better communicate with the residents. So I wanted to bring it up now and then include it. I'd like something to be in the budget for next year that we can do that. I just think it's really, really important.
You're thinking of improved communication tool, not a site redesign.
I'm talking about the whole
The whole
site.
site.
The whole site being redone that includes a communication tool in some way.
It is probably our most important communication tool.
I agree. I think it's just, that's where people go to look first. And I think when you go there and it's not easy to find what you're looking for, that people get frustrated and they don't look further. And then we hear that they're not getting the information. So I think having an intuitive website where people can find what they're looking for easily would be the first step in helping to improve that communication.
This would be a capital line item?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Hasn't been 10 years since our last redesign. I think it's been about four or 5 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, it
or
hasn't been
something.
that long since the whole thing was updated with
Yeah.
it. So, but I do
Yeah.
agree with you completely, Danielle.
But yeah, I mean,
Is there a way to tweak it?
to make it work, it's, we play the game of putting things in the capital that we wouldn't have in the past.
Maybe getting somebody to review it and getting some proposals would be a good start. And maybe it doesn't require a complete site redesign to fix the
I think
main issues.
what staff would look for if we want to pursue something would be to have people identify other websites that they think are really good. And then we can find out what contractors did those and pursue proposals from them.
I don't know that, yeah, I think that's a great idea. My concern is I don't know that we're in a position to be able to afford,
Yeah.
depending on the cost of
It's
of
not
that.
cheap.
Tom, do you have any idea?
And
what it
again,
would
you,
cost to
you
do
may
that?
find a website that looks really good, but they've got a staff behind it that runs it, right? We don't have that.
You know, I don't remember what the last redesign was, but it was a substantial amount, and it was significant enough that we got the contractor to agree to bill us for it over 3 years, 3 installments. It was substantial.
I remember one of the big wins there was the
Notify me?
notify me, but all the agendas got posted. I believe that saved a bunch of effort on what we had prior was not good at all. I mean, it was like a Rolodex. And so the way this is sorted, and I'm not going to say anything that the staff does is easy, but I think it's a big no, I'm saying it's a big improvement over what was there.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing the staff at
No.
all. You guys do a great job. I just think that there's other things that might be easier even, that would be more intuitive.
So I'd just like to step in. You're about a year ahead of what I was going to propose for next year. I've actually been looking into different providers, some better agenda, websites with better agenda software. But we have kind of a lot of projects going that we're working through, and I try to just keep to one a year. The website itself in its current form is disorganized, and it's difficult to reorganize because there's so much that exists out there as published information that leads down a rabbit hole to some other site, and the basic reorganization that I've tried to do to just make some things easier to find, it's not enough, and that took me hours because it's not very intuitive even behind the scenes. So I would ask, as you guys consider options, that maybe talk to staff. I don't know if it's necessary for to have somebody constantly updating on our behalf, but right now everything is just so convoluted that it makes it difficult to do easy updating where things are buried in multiple places. And I think, we've updated the directory in one spot and then it exists somewhere else, and somebody will be like, hey, it's not updated. Oh, okay, sorry about that. So, I agree, and I have a couple that I've looked into. If you like that information, I'd be happy to provide it.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk about anything else on that topic? Otherwise, we're going to move along. 10D, discussion and possible solution for increasing citizens' communication, including mailing fees being passed to developers, as requested by Alderperson Henry.
Yeah, I'll be quick on this one too. I just wanted to, again, discuss, because of the things that are happening with the land use, and just bringing up again communication with residents and notifying them when things are happening and public hearings, and just how can we do that better? How can we make sure, because the number one thing I keep getting from people is I didn't get it in the mail, and how do we make sure that isn't a response, that isn't, we know they're getting it, because I think we know we're mailing it, but how do we make sure they're getting it? So, and how can we build that in? So I just wanted to bring it up again, because I know we talk about it a lot, but it's just another.
But it's a problem that hasn't gone away. So.
It is, yeah. So I wanted to bring it up again, and how do we do that? I don't know.
So I know there was a public forum that I was at with you, and I did ask follow-up to people who said that they didn't get it. And I believe it's possible it was very likely our survey was a postcard, and it's like, what's that? And it's like, it's not a water bill, throw it away. But I did follow up and ask if they got our communicator, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, I get that. my point was that the same survey link was in both those communicators.
Yeah.
That they said they did get. So, but and I know that's a lot of work too to put those together. But maybe something with that kind of a look to it when we do mailers, and maybe it's not. So maybe it's not a complete communicator, but maybe it has that look that people are used to grabbing and looking at. That might be as simple as that for a big notice to go out that mimics that look without being without the crossword puzzle and the advertising.
Sure.
Just a thought. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can help.
Tom, you think part of the problem is, aren't most of these, you notify people within 300 feet of the area affected? 300 feet is not very far. We're getting people coming here from the whole neighborhood, not just 300 feet or probably 3,000 feet. There's some way maybe just to expand that. I think those within the first 300 feet, that they probably are getting it. The people who are saying they're not getting the communication are the ones that are 400 feet, 500 feet, 600 feet, because they're all in this kind of the same neighborhood.
Yeah, the city can mail it to however many people they want beyond 300 feet.
A different idea. I don't know if I brought it up. I brought it up to someone. I don't know if it was a big enough audience, but I noted with a lot of the stuff going on by the old Olympia Hill and Oconomowoc, more than once I saw a sandwich board sign on an edge of a property that said public hearing about this development on X date. So you drive by and it's like public hearing, and that, I think, to me, that looked rather intriguing for the fact that you're going to get people driving by and you're going to get neighbors that aren't going to pay attention to the mail, but they'll see it on the street.
That's a great idea.
I don't know if that's
a
something
good
we want to
idea. I
invest
like
in a
that.
couple sandwich boards and have have it on the developers to post it when they're going to public hearing.
Good idea.
Where was that, City of Oconomowoc?
City of Oconomowoc had them it was by the Aldi as one of the things they had off of 67. But I think that's the only place I've seen them. But to me, that looked like a good idea. Like, okay, well,
Yeah, I like that.
that's going to impact me. That's my neighbor,
Well, it's just another way.
Yeah.
If you have it in the communicator and you're sending out postcards, but then you also have some, that's a 1/3 increase in the ways you're trying to connect with people. So it's not a bad idea at all, I think.
Seems easy.
And low cost.
That's good.
A couple sandwich boards and
Yeah, they're not
near the affected area, or
we could get
this
a
would be a
waiver
cheap-
to put the sign up. Delafield and signs.
See, then the altar person in that district gets to wear it, walk around. And
Yeah. Now that would be interesting.
That's my idea. I'll back it up.
Okay, anything else on that topic? Otherwise, we are going to move along. 10E, discussion of possible action regarding Resolution 2022-27, resolution by the City of Delafield Common Council, Waukesha County, requesting financial assistance for the purpose of constructing the St. Johns Bay Transient Boat Docking Facility project. I believe that's you, Tom?
Yeah, so the City of Delafield, the Common Council did approve this project, and that was part of the budget process, which included a public hearing. It was approved for a cost of $60,000, which was an estimate that was put together 2 years ago. Part of the council's approval was contingent upon receiving DNR funding for the project. And as an FYI, the DNR will not grant us funding until we have the required permit in hand. So submitting this just puts us in the queue for funding. The committee that awards the funding meets quarterly. The next time they meet is in November. And so if we submit this and we have the permit by November, then they'll consider us for funding. If we don't have the permit in hand, then we would remain in the queue for the next meeting 3 months later. We did touch base with the contractor, and as you might expect, the prices did go up in the past 2 years. And the cost estimate that was provided by the Lake Welfare Committee in the past did not include any installation costs, and the contractor opined that we definitely would need to have a marine contractor to put this in place. He said that the sections weigh over 1,000 pounds each. that you'd have to have some kind of a contractor with a crane or something to drop them in place. And so we did incorporate the cost increases and the installation into the cost estimate. That brings the cost estimate up to $89,500. And if we were awarded a grant, the DNR would pay for half of that, so roughly $45,000. Our cost would be roughly half of that, for about $45,000. We previously approved $30,000 in the budget, so to do the project, we would have to budget about another $15,000 in this year's budget to supplement the previously allocated funds. One more thing. Because you apply for funding, and if you're granted funding, you can reject it if for some reason the city just changes its mind and doesn't want to do the project.
Just a clarification, Tom, this isn't a request to increase the funding. This is just a request to...
This is not a request to increase the funding. That request will be part of the budget process.
Okay. This is just a request assistance
So
from Waukesha
if
County.
we submit this and then the council decides not to fund adequately, we would contact the DNR and withdraw our funding application.
Okay, thank you.
So we want to increase our spending by 50% of the allocated funds for something that is pretty controversial. And while it did pass, it passed because the mayor broke a tie. It was not something that's remotely prudent in use of limited funds in a time of financial constraints, which we talk about routinely on this common council. And now we're talking about increasing the funds for something that is going to benefit very few and potentially very damaging. So I would have a huge concern with that.
Yeah.
But that
But
would
we're
be
not-
discussed at the budget, yeah.
Yeah, we're not talking about, and I voted against this 2022 budget. But we're not allocating any money, we're just
Yeah, but you know,
petitioning.
there's a saying, history does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And I've been down this rhyme before with other things to say, oh, well, it doesn't really mean we're going to go forward with it. And then I'm told, well, you approved it. Just like I hear time and again, legally and technically the council approved it, but really technically it was barely approved and it's controversial to say the least. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I'm hearing the rhyme. Yeah. But y'all know how I feel.
So
This doesn't obligate us to anything. I mean, to go forward is just moving forward with it at this point. If we decide we don't want to allocate the $15,000, then it goes away anyway.
It's a totally separate topic. The focus of this topic is to get the matching funds so that it would cost the city of Delafield less if it got installed. That's what this vote is about.
Okay.
All right,
we'll
so
have this-
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-27.
I'll second.
And I get it that it was a close vote, and I don't think time and more information is going to make us less informed. So when it comes to the budget, and the fact that it's more expensive isn't going to make it an easier decision or shed better light on it as being a great idea. So I'm open to seeing if the funding gets through and approved and from the DNR and having that discussion when the time is right.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Tom. Tom, on the application, I'm just confused about something. In the red here at the bottom, it says your project may not be presented to the Wisconsin Waterway Commission for funding until you received your permits. Can you help me understand that?
Yeah, that's what I said before, is that they will not consider it until we have our permit.
So why are we?
But you're asking me to, you're asking us to vote for a resolution to allow you to go apply for it.
No, so as part of the program, you can submit your application before you have the permit in hand, but the Waterways Commission, they meet quarterly. And so DNR staff will check, just prior to the Waterways Commission to see if we've got our permit or not. And if we don't, they'll pull it from the Waterway Commission's agenda.
Okay.
One thing to bear in mind that I don't know if they made it apparent, the DNR is going to hold a public hearing about this application. And Allison Masick, who's the DNR permitting officer for the Delafield and has asked for the clarification, has confirmed that there will be a public hearing hosted by the DNR regarding it. So I'm not so sure we can have that permit in hand when Delafield hasn't answered the questions. And yeah, we've had a lot of time since the questions have been asked. So, and there will be a public hearing once that has been, the questions have been answered. So I think, again, like I said, well, I didn't say it, but Ross and Chloe said it, the cart is before the horse on this one. And if they meet quarterly, then we can put the application in when we actually have a permit.
Is there any reason not to submit this at this point? I mean, if they're just going to pull it until we have the permit anyway, why wouldn't we just submit it now? I mean, is there any reason not to submit it now?
When you ask if there's any reason not to submit it, I would contend that Alderman Valdi probably would think that there is reason not to submit it.
Other than not wanting the project to move forward?
Well, it's really not the project, it's what the impact, and I'm not sure.
But other than not wanting the project to move forward, is there any reason not to submit this now?
Well, I would be uncomfortable submitting.
I asked a question.
Oh, I thought you were asking
I wasn't
it in general.
asking you. I was asking Tom. I asked a question. Could you allow him to answer, please?
How about if you ask the city, the citizens?
Susie,
There's
please.
a lot of reasons.
Susie, please.
Danielle, obviously it's a contentious project, and the Common Council has to balance moving forward with the project, which was the consensus of the majority of the council and under which staff is proceeding at this point. That's why it's presented to the council.
Right.
But as far as any reason, you've heard public opinion, you've heard fellow council members that are uncomfortable with it, so that would be the only reason. But logistically, again, it doesn't, it just puts us in the queue and makes the funding available to us. We can reject it, we can decrease the amount of funding we're asking for. All those things are on the table.
Okay, thank you.
So if we submit this now, our grant application's in queue, it will automatically be reviewed after our permit is granted, right?
Once we receive a permit, if we receive a permit, it will go to the next Waterways Commission meeting. The next one's in November, and they meet quarterly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions?
Can we get names on the nays or hands raised on the nays?
I didn't hear you. I can't hear about 80% of what you have to speak louder.
She wants to know who voted nay.
I'm just looking for clarification on the nays so that I can get it down for the record.
I think it was just Jackie and Wayne.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Motion carries. Okay, we will move on to 10F. Discussion and possible action to update the fish hatchery fee schedule to include a Friday afternoon, Saturday full day combination.
Back in early 2022, the council passed a resolution to update the fish hatchery fee schedule to allow for just one day charges. We did a Saturday, Sunday, each day being $600, and then a full weekend to include Friday for $1,300. Since that has happened, council did ask us to address any concerns that we noticed happening a lot. We have had a lot of requests for Friday night or a Friday-Saturday combination. The current agreement that we have with the cleaning company is that they would come in on Sunday morning as necessary between a Saturday and a Sunday rental. So my suggestion is to tack on a Friday-Saturday combination for $800, and folks could then get the Friday night if they wanted to have a rehearsal dinner and a wedding the next day. Again, for a relatively reasonable fee in comparison to other venues offering the same amenities. And it just offers an additional option for renters at there's no detriment to us to do that as long as it includes Saturday.
I'll move to approve the Friday, Saturday combination rate for fish hatchery at $800.
Second.
Thanks for doing the work. I mean, that's the kind of feedback we need to hear because we can't hear it. You guys are the ones dealing with the bookings and stuff. So.
Just to clarify, that's resolution 2022-25.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we're down to 10G, approval of vouchers, payable report for reporting dates of 6/18/2022 to 9/19/2022 in the amount of $309,953. The accounts payable and $244,197 for payroll.
I think I'll move to approve the voucher list.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we are now on to
Was that Schaefer?
11A1, 2023 budget schedule.
Yeah, my only report is the 2023 budget schedule, and just want to make sure we get these dates on your calendar. We are looking at distribution of the budget books on October 25th. We will conduct the budget workshop on Tuesday, November 1st, and then the budget public hearing and the approval of the budget will be at the regular council meetings in November, which is November 7th and the 21st.
Are all these meetings open to the public?
They are.
Okay.
And will they all be posted on the website?
They will.
All right. City Clerk, B.
Election update. We have the gubernatorial election in November. Absentees are going out this Thursday at the latest. I'm already starting to get things prepped for that. We have at this time just shy of 500 absentees already set to go out. Our applications already requesting public testing. If anybody wants to see the machines be tested and make sure that they're working along with me, that's October 31st at 10 a.m. And then we are working on scheduling the Heritage registration and voting dates yet for October. The staffing update, as you know, Mary's last day, well, you may or may not know Mary's last day was last week. So we're currently down 2 people in the clerk's office. We are conducting interviews for the administrative support assistant position. Our last round of interviews is tomorrow. So I do expect to have that position filled hopefully within the next few weeks. The deputy clerk interviews, we are working on scheduling those. I'm less hopeful that we're going to get that one right away. I think the importance there is to have the proper person in that position, because it is someone who, in the event that there's a medical emergency or something like that, that person has to be willing and able to step into the clerk position, and just want to make sure it's a good fit. And then the final thing for the city clerk update, if you'll remember a year ago almost, there was a notice of claim filed that was just briefly to summarize regarding concerns about central count. We passed a resolution subsequently to allow that to basically time out. The gentleman did not file a suit, so the claim is closed, I guess. Is the right term for that? I apologize, I'm not an attorney. But the information on that is in the packet, if you have any further questions about that. But that's basically wrapped up. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to City Treasurer. July 2022 Treasurer's Report is in the packet. Here's one you're looking for, Mark. Council request for future agenda items.
I'll ask that discussion on Lake Country Fire and Rescue staffing and funding options be placed on the next agenda.
Okay, anything else? Anything else? Okay, we'll go on to 12, correspondence. I refer you to the Village of Heartland comprehensive plan update. Then we'll move on to 13, motion to convene into closed session pursuant to the following provision. Wisconsin Statute 9.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. More specifically, regarding the performance review and compensation of the city clerk and administrative support specialist. And I'm going to read the second one that we'll be covering in closed session, which is 13B, Wisconsin Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investigating of investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public businesses whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. More specifically, regarding negotiating a municipal garbage recyclable collection contract. The council will convene into open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of the agenda. So we will come back into open session. There may or may not be discussion. We may simply end the meeting, or we may take a vote if appropriate. So, number 14, motion to convene into open, I'm back up. So I need a motion to convene into closed session.
So moved.
I'll second.
That's a roll call.
Henry?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Valdi?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Grimmer?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Iker?
Aye.
I'm surprised. I am surprised by that. I would. Oh.
Alrighty, going back into open session.
I'll make a motion to go into open session.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Henry.
Aye. It is. Aye.
Hold on a second.
Oh, you. Sorry.
Okay, Henry.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Baldy.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Grimmer.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Iker.
Aye.
Okay, we're back in open session. Okay, discussion and possible action, if any, regarding the following items discussed in closed session. The compensation of the city clerk, no action was taken. Compensation of the administrative support specialist, no action was taken. Therefore, we're on to item number 16 to adjourn. Seeing no further business, we are adjourned at 9:50 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.